Yeah, there we are. We're live. You caught me in the middle of a little munchies. I got my timing a little bit wrong. So excuse me while I try and eat it while it's still warm. Now, it's very rude to talk with your mouth full. My apologies. I'm having a hot dog. Gotta keep my wee little goat body energized. So I figured out why the audio was not playing before. Looks like I might need to use Chrome instead of Firefox. But I'm going to try an alternative way. So bear with me. I will share my screen. I'm going to try VLC. The Beacon by Zachariah Hickman. If there is no audio, please let me know. I'm going to mute myself. And if that doesn't work, I'll unmute myself. So a little bit of music to settle in, and also for me to finish my hot dog. Right, then I'll just have to do it in a kind of feedbacky sort of way through my microphone. How about now? Still no music? You're joking me. Yeah. Oh, you can hear it now. Ah, right, okay. There we go. Like a Western. He's in the mood to watch some Pulp Fiction. Right, let's stop that. Okay, now I can get rid of that. Well, it's wonderful to see everyone. Hope you're doing fine this day that we're blessed with. Every day above ground, that sort of thing. So, Billy, chew faster. So we're going to do a Q&A that tailors off from the last stream. You can see that pattern here where we're kind of like tacking on things that from previously on the Billy Wild show. What was that called? Your outsider participation in the narcissist fantasy, something like that. So I've gone through it. I've seen some of your comments. I see GM, you're here. I'll be addressing one of your sort of questions. Yeah, it was a question. And Peng, if you're here, you too. And some of these questions, and points and things like that, other people might also have the same wonderings. Let me just see. Is there any actually particular questions right here, right now, that someone has occupying their mind? Let's see. I mean, so Rib Grunt, Silver Bullet, Iridium Kush, Mr. Hemi, JR, GM, Red Pill in the Wind. It's been a long time, man. Have I missed anyone? Tim, good to see you as well. All lady and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be here with. How's the hot dog? Oh, it helped warm me up because it's cold here in the UK, and I'm refusing, one, to turn on the central heating, and two, I refuse to wear a coat indoors. But it's getting to that point where it's like, yeah, I might need to wear a coat. So otherwise, it's like, right, I better put on some blubber. I got a cup of tea. Last time I had a cup of coffee, and that was why I made the sort of 2 cups of coffee will cure you reference. This time a cup of tea will help warm you up, and I might actually be able to drink it this time because I have a habit of just letting it sit there and get cold. So let me just wash down that hot dog. Hot diggity dog. I find myself toasting the bun more and more until it starts to catch fire, and I'm like, it is ready. So yeah, it's a bit of a Q&A, mainly narcissistic related. Hopefully it's not going to be as long a stream as before, because basically there's only 3 main sort of questions to sort of cover, really. So should we crack on with the questions? I'm trying not to keep everyone here for too long. Now, I've heard other people say, if you're going to write a question in the comments to somehow catch my attention, so I can, because when I'm looking at the comments, I'm glancing, I'm not really reading properly. So if you're going to sort of try and catch I don't know how you're going to catch my attention, but I don't know, write in capital letters, question, colon, and then ask away. D-Man, great to see you here. I think one of the questions you sort of asked, you along with Peng, so you both asked the same question, and that'll be about narcissistic parents. But we're going to begin with GM's one in order that they appeared. So GM said this previously on Billy the Goat. GM asked, so what if a reason you want to warn them is because if it wasn't for you, that person wouldn't have been predated upon and recruited in the first place? So you want to raise the alarm, you want to warn someone, caution them. I mean, it's like, watch out, you're dating a serial killer. So obviously it's a legit concern, and people are, you worry about how other people are. It's like if someone crosses the road without looking, you shout out, watch out, because in a second I'm going to give you advice, which is you let them get hit by the car, and I'm afraid they'll learn to look next time. I know it's mean, Billy, you're mean. But sorry if you hear me, it's because crumbs on my desk is making the mouse sort of making scrapey sounds as I'm sliding it across the surface. Now, first of all, so if they're already recruited, well, you're a bit late to warn them. And you could also make the argument that the warnings are really, I mean, it comes from a lack of parenting. Like, didn't mommy and daddy ever tell you, like, don't take sweets from a stranger? That sort of thing. So why is it now your job to try and educate someone who should really already know? And we could all, yet again, like we can all fall foul to this, because how would you know? How would you realize? I mean, not to be too naive and think the world is always la la land, but um, the sneakiness, the covert ways of a narcissist. I mean, how would you, unless you had a particular style of training or experience, maybe you've been caught out by a swindler, like some sort of con artistry game, then you might be a bit more aware of the art of manipulation. Obviously, if some maniac is running towards you with a gun, you're going to be like, you're going to wet your pants, and your natural instinct will kick in to be like, run away, danger. But how do you how does your intuition and your alarm system, the red flags, how do they get signaled if, for example, the wolf is wearing sheep's clothing? There you are, wanting to stroke the sheep. But with all that being said, there is also an element where here you need to kind of let them find out to a large extent. Otherwise, if you're going to be cautioning them, if you're not careful, you'll have to follow them around 24/7, because you don't know at what point are they actually capable of looking after themselves. You're wiping their backside for them. So they really need to be learning the various skills of being able to like select their company wisely. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to come from you. I mean, so first of all, you shouldn't really feel guilty. I know, especially like if you're privy to a certain bit of information, it's like, I could have told him that. But at the same time, if you want to treat them like an adult, and they're capable and they're supposedly responsible for themselves, etc., like that, then even if you do know, they should really know for themselves. They shouldn't have to. I mean, it's almost like a bonus that someone else has the awareness to see what's going on. And then there's the other more sort of pragmatic, flippant kind of answer towards this question, which is like, that you could warn them all day long, and if they're not listening, then they're not listening. So basically, I suppose what you could do then is you can try to tell them, and if they don't want to listen, at least you've delivered the message, and not to bang on about it over and over again, because what will tend to happen if someone's nagging you, they're no longer listening to the message, they're hearing just nag, 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 and they'll probably distance themselves, and hope is lost at that point. Now, as an example, I know a lot of people are meat eaters. There are a few vegetarians amongst us, I'm sure. But has anyone ever harped at you to like, hey, you should be a vegetarian? Do you do it? It's like, eventually, if they keep nagging at you to be a vegetarian, you're gonna be like, dude, like, I can't keep doing this. Either you cut that out and let me do what I want to do, or I'm gonna have to stop hanging out with you, because you're just going on and on about the dangers of eating meat. And that could be, smoking, drinking, reckless behavior, porn. I mean, like fapping, all sorts of things that people want to kind of like criticize and tell you, hey, you want a healthy life, or you want what's good for you, then heads up. A point I want to add as well, you want to be a bit careful that what you're doing is you're not projecting your own fears. So just because you see a danger, or maybe you have an experience with this person who you're allegedly claiming is a predator or abusive or maybe just a no good sort of like a what do they call him in the black community, like a dusty, like a waste of effort, or a low caliber, a low value sort of person. So just because you've had some sort of experience, or you have your perspective, and you have your concerns, your fears, does not necessarily mean that the other person will ever experience that. I mean, you never know. The other person might have something up their sleeve. They might have some bit of information that you don't know that will protect them. But obviously, yeah. So you still want to, particularly like GM. I mean, I don't know if this is like maybe your maternal instincts, mama bear wanting to intervene. But it's still their choice whether to listen to you or not. And then you could have the kind of attitude of like, don't come crying to me then. And that sort of sentiment in part is there's almost a little bit like self-soothing. You say it, you stipulate it, so that should, because there's a good chance that they might still come crying to you even though you told them not to, but it at least kind of quells perhaps your conscience, so you don't feel so guilty. And there's also so there's an element that when you warn people, like, hey, watch out, they're a fraudster, you might not necessarily be indicating exactly what this potential victim, will experience. Let's say like your concern is, hey, I know you're dating a thief. So the potential victim is thinking, right, a thief, am I? I'm dealing with a thief, am I? So they're going to steal my bank account. They're going to steal my house, maybe. They're going to steal my possessions. And they didn't realize that what was stolen was maybe a kidney. Like, oh, I didn't see that one coming. So all in all, I mean, this is why it's important to educate. And in part, that's what warnings are about, to provide an education and an awareness, and not blindly go around in life like sunshine and rainbows, like in a fantasy that nothing bad will ever happen to you. But that comes down, that's a parenting aspect, really. That should have been there before you ever came along to see what's going on and be concerned. And then I suppose lastly, what I can say about it kind of comes down to your discretion, and the particulars of the situation. I mean, if they kind of want to chase happiness, be it a delusional form of happiness, I mean, should you really deny them of that? What's the alternative? Perhaps they're going to be miserable and their esteem gets lower. If not, going back to the first point, like if maybe you might save them from one potential predator, but what about the next one? So are you going to continually you're going to continually warn them, but not actually give them the tools to be able to deduce for themselves who is a safe to be in a presence, a company who is safe to be around. Oh, I see a question. All right. Let go my ego. All right. Thank you for the question. Thank you, good mother, for your question as well. Is it possible people can be narcissistic and arrogant when they start changing, such as losing weight, moving to a new location, making new friends, etc., in their personal something? Oh, this is the second part. Personal lifestyles after adapting a new life. Then, if so, how should I prevent that without being narcissistic? It sounds like you're asking a question about awareness. So, can someone be narcissistic and arrogant and not being? I'll go back to the first part of your question. It's a shame you can't put more than one comment on the screen. So, is it possible people can be narcissistic and arrogant? Well, narcissists, I mean, they're very arrogant anyway because of the they're never wrong, the self-importance, the unlimited expectation of entitlement that everything they deserve it. So when they start changing, such as losing weight, moving to a new location, making new friends, etc. So I'm guessing like positive moves. You know, you're losing weight. That's an achievement. Like hey. So there is now when we talk about narcissism, we're looking at behavioral characteristics and traits that is embedded within a person's personality. It's a personality disorder, which means it's in every aspect of their life. It's not going to necessarily be just you become narcissistic when you lost a bit of weight, so you feel happy with yourself and you look in the mirror and you go, hey, I'm looking good. I mean, someone might be like, point at you and be like, oh, you're being a narcissist. Not necessarily. What would be more narcissistic would be, regardless of the mirror, regardless of losing weight, they're just going around day in, day out, every moment of the day thinking, I'm the man, I'm hot, I'm Mr. Lover or whatever. You know, they got that sort of that infatuated with themselves. They're enamored with their own sense of their image, their sense of self, the false sense. So we describe it, narcissism, as a continual, constant, what's the P word? Pervasive style. It's like you wake up with narcissistic thoughts and you go to bed with narcissistic thoughts. It's non-stop. So which is why when it comes to diagnosing someone with narcissism, you can't just take an isolated incident and be like, oh, I'm going to diagnose you with you need a period of time to see for this behavioral aspect, this integrated, ingrained, continual, constant, pervasive behavior to be presented to you, where you can see like, yeah, this is in every aspect of their life. They're opening up a can of baked beans, and while they're opening it up, they're like, oh yeah, I'm the man, I'm Mr. Sexy or whatever. It's like, dude, man, you just open a can of baked beans. But for the narcissist, it's like this voice I can never shut up kind of thing. So it's always there. Now going back to Lego my ego, going back to your question then, just because someone's lost a bit of weight, just because they moved to a new location, just because they're making new friends, you could it would be natural to expect, like, yeah, on the whole, this person probably feels a lot, I mean, presumably they're happy that they're moving to a new location and they're happy they're making new friends and they're happy they're losing weight. So it makes sense. It kind of like everybody would feel pleased with themselves. And we could all have days where perhaps we could be more narcissistic than other days. An actual true narcissist doesn't have that kind of luxury. Even on their bad days, they're still narcissistic. So let's just reread the question and see if I can take it at a different angle, maybe provide some more insight. Is it possible people can be narcissistic and arrogant when they start changing? That's another aspect you put there. So when they start changing, because the core structural framework of a narcissist doesn't change. It's a rigid personality disorder, and this is why they could be stubborn mules and thick-headed, bone-headed, and this is where maybe some of that arrogance might be coming from. So if we see changes, like aspects of maybe maturity or taking on responsibilities of life, let's say like they're moving to a new location, they've moved out of their parents' house and they've now got a place of their own, and they're doing well. They're establishing their new property or accommodation. They're being responsible. They're getting their clothes clean. They're doing the bills. They're keeping the house clean, etc., etc. Is showing signs of taking responsibility and being accountable. I mean, responsibility and accountability isn't something a narcissist is looking forward to. So, and narcissists are, generally speaking, like maladaptive. So, when you say that there are changes and these are positive changes, it doesn't make me think narcissism. This would be sort of, generally speaking, like a natural kind of progression in life, which in this example is a positive one. They're doing well. They're losing weight. They're getting a life together. They're making new friends. And what was the second little part of that? So in their personal lives after adapting a new life, then also how should I prevent that without being narcissistic? Okay, so now I'm thinking maybe what you're describing is like an element of sort of becoming a bit egotistical or big-headed. It's like, haha, yeah, I got it down now. Life is looking good, and you don't want this. You don't want the vanity to go shooting through the roof or into your head. So, like I said before, initially it shouldn't be surprising. If you won the lottery, obviously you're going to be over the moon. So it wouldn't be surprising that you'd be dancing in the street half dressed or something like that. If this is going on for weeks on end, that you're dancing in the street half naked, now you might have a bit of a more continual, consistent, pervasive pattern of behavior going on. Then you could be like, I'm dealing with someone who is who hasn't come down from that high. So I mean, general, and also like generally, so how do I prevent that without being narcissistic? A bit of time, a bit of self-reflection, getting your ego in check, and the sort of honeymoon, the buzz from the adrenaline. That's another aspect to factor in, because obviously, with all these changes, the body's chemistry is also changing. You know, your self-esteem, your image, how you see yourself is changing. Your hormones are changing. You got, if you're working out in order to lose weight, you know, you're getting that adrenaline rush from pumping iron. I mean, go ask Island Hermit about that. The feel good of exercise. So I wouldn't be too alarmed. And there's also another point when someone says, "Is it me? Am I the narcissist?" The typical response to that is, well, no, because a narcissist wouldn't think about whether or not they're a narcissist. So if you're contemplating it, like built into your final sentence there, like, if so, how do I prevent that without being narcissistic? You're telling, you've got a level of self-awareness there, because you're like, you're introspecting, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be narcissistic if I can avoid it. Well, that's sort of like mentoring, self-mentoring to a degree, because you're keeping yourself in check. A narcissist wouldn't do that. It's all right if we have some traits, and if we're a little bit higher up on the spectrum than others. What matters is the ability to sort of regulate, because narcissists cannot regulate, and this is why they end up, in part, go to like extreme lengths, and they become complete nut jobs in the end, because there's nothing to stop them. I hope that kind of answers your question. I know I went on a ramble on that one, but it was a good question. Okay, I'm looking at the comments. Oh, I see RP Pope. RP Pope. My apologies, is here. I've got a response to one of your questions, RP Pope. I'm just checking if there's any additional questions in the chat. Focus on your purpose, or focus on your purpose to improve your own situation, and don't care about what any more about others and their own opinions. Yeah, when other people's opinion of you matters more than your own, you've got a bit of a problem there. Oh, right, so yeah, basically, no reason to worry about what other people think. Right. I mean, if someone thinks that you're a complete, they have a dislike towards you, there's nothing really you can do to stop them thinking that. And this is why, in part, when there's a problem with smear campaigns, the victim gets worried. It's like, oh no, rumors are being said about me. And it's like, well, then don't be so concerned about trying to squash these rumors. Let them go around, because those who actually know you, your true character, they won't believe these rumors and lies. But that's a good way, in some ways, to be able to identify who's really your friend. Are they going to believe the rumors? Or are they going to believe you? So you can almost thank a smear campaign going on, because it helps you, with discernment, recognize who is really your friend and who is that gullible and naive to believe these ridiculous lies that are being said about you. And obviously, it signals that you pose some kind of threat, because they have to try and character assassinate you or ruin your reputation. So there's something about you that either they're jealous of, or they're in competition with, or that triggers their insecurities. And this is why you're being targeted and minimized in such a way. So you can also take that smear campaign, not to be big-headed like what we're saying with "let go of my ego," like you can almost take that and be like, well, I've got reason to feel better about myself. Like it can inadvertently boost your sense of self-esteem, because like, I didn't think I was that important or significant, but obviously I must be, because there is a campaign against me now. Now, I'll say that with a caveat, because some people out there, and I see this in the manosphere, watch out for this. Here's a heads up, where they take a pride in getting a strike or getting a ban or getting exiled or something like that. So it's like a badge of honor. It's like, and they usually try and tie it in with what they're sort of preaching. It's like, what my ideology is must be such a threat that I'm getting strikes now. Like, they don't like the things I have to say because Susan is censoring my work. Like, FYI, I haven't had any strikes, any problems with censorship with my channel. How come? Where's Susan? You know? So is it really, and this is the thing, like there could be many reasons why funny things are happening with people's channels. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the algorithm robots. I mean, come on, like, are we entering a level of paranoia? They're out to get me, they're censoring me, they're watching every move I make. I have to say words like grape because I'm too frightened to say the word rape. I just said it. Am I going to get struck down? No, I'm not. So what's going on? And so, but sometimes people welcome this, like, I want the algorithm bots to suppress me, and I want to be censorship, and I want to be strucken down or whatever, because that validates me. It gives me some kind of like elation, or it boosts me up in some shape or form, and they wear it with a badge of honor. Sorry, I think that was a bit of a rant. Instead of a ramble, that was a rant. So, oh, yes, you may ask me, what is my occupation? Technically, I'm self-employed. So I do 3D printing mainly, but it's dying out. So I'm transitioning over to, I suppose, like author or motivational speaker. Oh, we've got a grifter coming along. I don't know, that might be the classification I'm in, but I am trying to write 2 books simultaneously. As work, like in the sense of I put in time and effort in there. As people hear me talking and things like that, these are I'm not trying to steal other people's ideas or plagiarism. I'm trying to hard graft and make my own path. So that would be where I'm transitioning to. I don't technically have the proper qualifications to be a therapist or a counselor, but I keep getting told by even like people like doctors and other therapists that, hey, have you thought about being a therapist? So I'm getting the nudge from all around that I should be some sort of emotional regulator for people, and I kind of like that direction, really. So it's in line with wanting to develop the field of psychology or to develop mental health. So in particular, I mean, because you talk about psychology, you know, it's a broad subject. Where I kind of focus and hone in my interest, as it were, is trauma, child development. I've been on a couple of courses for child development, the cluster disorders, mainly cluster Bs. Because my daughter is autistic, I add in a little bit of autism. So I'll put that under the umbrella of child development. And likewise with narcissism, these are a problem of, generally speaking, in loose terms, of how these people have been failed in their upbringing in some shape or form, in manner, usually poor parenting. So if we have better parenting, we can hopefully stop people becoming narcissistic. Because I don't like the compassion element in me doesn't enjoy seeing. I mean, they are a nuisance. Don't get me wrong. You know, someone who is full blown narcissistic or even very strong traits. I mean, they're a nuisance. They're abusive. They're a drain on the society and the system. But at the same time, it didn't have to be that way had they been raised better. I mean, this isn't like, we're not talking necessarily about a psychopath who they say has like they got it in their genes, so it's an expression of their genes in their DNA, and so their brain structure is a lot different. But yeah, but if you're wondering maybe about my past occupation, I generally, so like thinking back, I think my first job was a bartender. Did quite a few different warehouse jobs, print finisher, driving around a forklift without a license. I mean, that was a good job. Running what we call a plotter. It's a little bit like a 3D printer, but before that time, printers were around. Did a bit of charity work, and I hate it. The interesting thing about charity work, I mean, I was basically on the street hustling. Would you like to donate to charity? And the amount of times people would say like, "Oh, I'm running late. I'm running late." It's kind of like, just say no. Stop giving me lies. That was just a short one. One of the coolest jobs I had was, my title was master painter. So I do before 3D printing. I in my hobby times, my other self-employed business was a model make. It is. It kind of transformed into 3D printing. So it was more generalized as just a model maker. Warhammer 40,000, that kind of thing, little sculptures. So I learned a lot about terrain making, painting, airbrushing, sculpting, molding, and casting. That was a big step up. And then more manufacturing processes, injection molding and things like that, resins, the different materials and how they relate, combining all these different skills together. Customizations. So I was always a bit of a tinkerer with my model kits. And then that led into things like anatomy, understanding, because I was doing the sculpting. So I was like, right, I need to learn how skeletons the names of the bones and the names of the bones in the skull. So anatomy became an area of interest. And then the brain structure became an area of interest. This was before any psychological stuff was going on. And at one point during all of that, I got a reply from an application. I don't even remember making the application, but I got this sort of message like, "Hey, would you be able to come by and come for an interview?" So I was like, "Okay, sure." Don't even remember applying. And I'm like looking at the address. I'm like, I live in London. This is out of London. Like, I'm like, why on earth would I be applying for a job? I mean, how far away is it? I remember packing 2 sports bags full of models and saying to my partner at the time, like, "Okay, I'm going to get the train and I'm going for my interview. I'll see you later." And these bags, they're heavy, but they're also delicate because they're full of like little model kits or whatever. And I go for the interview, and the guy basically says, "Okay, yeah, we'll give you the job. Can you start right here, right now?" And I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I guess I could." So the role, the master painter, we were doing like BBC Prime. What was the name of the series? Primeval, if I remember correctly, the name of the series, and some Doctor Who. We were doing the toy action figures that you would see on the shelf that's being sold in the shop. I would paint, well, people in that position would paint the original model, like the first copy, that would get sent off over to China for the other workers to emulate. So however we paint it is going to be replicated, and that's what you see on the shelf when you go to buy it. So that was quite cool because like I've got the title of master painter, and sort of like my work is on the shop shelf when people go buying their toys and action figures. Occasionally celebrities would come by the business because the sculpting team is making, they're sculpting the actors and the celebrities and things like that. So it was a fantastic. I mean, they were playing music. It was all relaxed. It was fun. It was great. It was late. Sit back and relax, just painting models. So doing something that you enjoy doing. What let it down for me was the pay wasn't very good, and the trekking, just the traveling, was just way too much. People who were working there were telling me that they lived even further than I did. So what they had to do in the end was basically rent out accommodation just so that they can go to work. And I was quite young at that time, and I was thinking, I don't want to have to like rent out accommodation just because of work. Like, but at the same time, it's like, but how am I going to drive backwards and forwards? So maybe it was a mistake. I let it go. Anyway, so that's my general sort of work history. Just go through some of the comics. Okay, this doesn't look like a question, but it does. It sounds like a talking point. So, RP Pope. My problem is my narc is using her other narc friends to destroy any progress I make. So we're talking about triangulation. We're talking about the flying monkeys or the harem that come in to sabotage your efforts. And yes, narcissists will work in conjunction with one another. They are jealous and hate me for caring about other people, something they can't do. Yeah, they'll look at that and be like, "Why, why are you so nice, you simp?" They try and ridicule you, and as a multi-prong attack because they're going to try and make you feel shame and guilt for saying nice or doing nice things for other people. So they're going to try and cut that off. So that's not nice. That's like strike one. Strike two is like making you feel bad for doing something that's nice. And a third sort of strike is it starts to make you more resentful and bitter. So it's bad enough stopping someone being able to express how they might feel, but to sort of turn the tide and invert it, to corrupt it and make it the opposite. So now you're full of frustration, resentment, anger, and you're not allowed. Presumably, you're not allowed to be angry with a narcissist. So who are you going to be angry with? It's going to eat you up inside, and that's like becomes a self-destructive mindset that the narcissist has sort of, they're rubbing their hands. It's like, look what I've done to you. I've effed you up so bad that you hate yourself more than I hate myself. So you're suffering more than I'm suffering. And seeing you suffer, this is where like a bit of sadism would come in, helps them to feel better about themselves. So it's diabolical stuff. Yeah, feel for you there, RP Pope. Like, but the clues are in your words, so it's not like you have no idea that this is going on. You're telling us all right here, right now, that you've got your suspicions. You see things that are happening, and you have your wants and desires, but and this is where you're perhaps you're not sure like how to proceed, and we can there are things that can be done. A simple one would be like maybe not openly express it to the narcissist, so they are none the wiser. You can still show compassion and empathy towards people without making it so explicit. Like, I'm not sure who exactly you're talking, who you want to show care towards, but body language goes a long way. Maybe you could write a private little note or a little message, or send a text message, or a little wink or a nod, just to make them, just to give them some security that you can see them, and it's like the talking with eyebrows. Like, some words do not need to be said. So what does Tim say here? It's not important what someone thinks about you, it's what you think about yourself. Yeah, bang on. Yeah, you're the one that has to live with you at the end of the day. And if that's a unwelcomed environment, or a kind of a upsetting place to be in, I mean, this is partly why the narcissist has that split and has sided with their ego and rejected their sense of self. They divorce themselves from their soul. Now, look at your options. Either you kind of like be at peace with who you are, the good and the bad, and don't think of it so much as like the bad stuff is things that you need to be ashamed of or look down upon. It just shows you that you got a balance, that you're human, and that it's not just the good that makes a person. The bad also shapes that character, and in that sort of way, the bad elements might actually work out in a positive sort of fashion. Let's say, I don't know, when you fart, the sound of you farting is it sounds just like a guitar G major chord. It's tuned in perfectly to G major. Some people might hate you for farting. You might hate that as well. But come on now. I mean, it adds to your character, to your charm and charisma. It's like, hey, do you know that guy? Hey, I'm going to use Tim. Hey, Tim, do you know that guy, Tim? Who's Tim? The one that, his rear end sings in G major. Like, yes, Tim. What a guy. I remember him. I'll never forget him. Sorry, Tim. D-Man 50, right? I believe they go kind of personal. Okay. If it's too personal, I'll refrain from answering. And you certainly do not have to answer. Thank you very much. Do you have sole or joint custody of your child? Oh, okay. I have sole custody of my child. No co-parenting. I refused it. I didn't go to court either. I said to the woman, I ain't doing this. You go, kid stays with me. F off, basically. I said, you want, this is when you stick it to the narcissist. When you can turn around and say, like, look, you got what you wanted. You wanted to hurt me. You did it. Well done. Now, go and leave because me and the kid have to heal. We're not going to play this game anymore. You've done enough damage. And what could she say to that? So she left, tail between her legs. I said, I'd do a better job looking after her without your interference. So I got sole custody, although because I didn't go to court, it's not actually like in law as such. So as time elapses, then it strengthens my position more and more, because like mum has been absent for like years now, and suddenly now she's going to show her face and expect custody or joint custody. I mean, yeah, probably the court would like award her it, but it doesn't look really good on her record. So there's nothing really to stop her one day trying to attempt. But when you built yourself up with esteem fundamentally, and you got your boundaries, they're rock solid, you've got your intelligence, you've got your awareness, they know that you know, like they know that you've seen through the mask, through the veil, that they can't BS you anymore. It's this is one of the things they talk about, like narcissists have no boundaries, for example. That's a lie. They do have boundaries, because one of their boundaries, for example, is to not allow danger or threat to penetrate their sense of ego. I was going to say sense of self, but really it's their sense of ego. They substitute their sense of self with their ego. They conflate the two together. So I'm now too dangerous for my ex. So that means I didn't need to necessarily run away, go no contact. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to make contact with me. And she doesn't want to bump into me if possible, because of what I represent. My presence, for her to see me, she will instantly feel shame. So I don't really need to do anything. It's like I am walking kryptonite for her. I mean, that's the kind of level of healing I want to be able to sort of teach people, where you don't have to live in fear or run. Like we talk about men going their own way. It's like we don't really need to go our own way. If we want to stand where we are, like, we shouldn't have to be forced out of town. They don't like us, they can leave. So yeah, I got my kid, I got full custody, I make all the decisions. I supported myself. I don't ask for any alimony or any money. She did try and offer money. I said, I don't want your money. That's like the equivalent of blood money. Why would I want that? So that you can have some sort of tie, some connection. I was like, no, you have to go. You know. And my kid was 5 years old at the time, and she's autistic, so she didn't have any understanding of what was really going on. And I had to say, like, how do I? She starts asking questions like, where's mum? And I'm like, I'm really sorry about this, but mum is just so unwell that she has to think of herself first, and she hasn't got the room in her mind to be able to think about us as the family anymore. So not saying that's the best excuse or rationale to give her, but I wasn't going to bash on, like, your mum's a liar, a cheater, and try to abuse, I wasn't going to do that. So they said that mum is very unwell, like like in the head, sort of mentally speaking. And then obviously when now that I've got sole custody, I mean, we go by my schedule, and I can regulate my kids' emotions better, and there's a lot more stability and good stuff. Milestones, we were able to catch up on milestones, so we've done well, you know, considering our backstory. I say like me and my kid. And let me go back to this, right? Because I've been meaning to say this at some point. Now, when I look at my kid, I think many times I think of you guys, the fathers amongst you who don't have their kid. So I have what we call survivor's guilt to some degree, because I recognize that my situation is like, I know Shinobi one. I think, I mean, I don't want to jump to stipulate in too much detail, but I think he has sole custody. I don't know if it's on paper, and I don't know if there's any money. I don't know the ins and outs of it. But my point is that it's rare. And obviously we all know that many fathers have zero access to their kids, or some have to like co-parent, or there's other complications involved. And I am lucky and fortunate. I mean, I've had people say to me, "Oh, Billy, you're lucky." And I recognize that, and I appreciate that. I count my blessings in many ways, but I have to give myself a little bit of credit here, where it's like, no, I did actually have to fight for that. It wasn't just like Lady Luck was on my side. No, it's like I had to be on the verge of insanity. I had to take a gamble and risk it all. And it's dangerous, dodgy stuff, psychologically speaking, that I went through to know when to play my hand, like my cards, when to take action, and how much, and how to maneuver, how to use the narcissist. And at the time, I had no awareness, no red pill. I was blue pill, no psychology. I had it was all brand new to me, so I was learning on the fly. And I mean, so it's amazing when I'm surprised with myself even when I think back to it. It's like the stars were aligned, or something like that, and I had to have that window of opportunity to act. One day I'll go into a lot more detail about how that process played out, if it's going to be of help to anyone. But yeah, so in terms of so when I raise my daughter, when I spend time with her, the knowledge of the brothers and the men's who haven't got their children help spur me on to want to raise my kid better, and to give her the love and care that these men aren't able to give to their children. And it's not to try and make them jealous or anything like that. I'm sure they would be happy knowing that there is at least one kid whose parent who is able to actually receive in contact with like a caring parent who actually gives a damn about them, you know. So it's emotional stuff, and I want to return the favor in that sense with this survivor's guilt, where I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let you guys down in that sense. I'm going to make sure I raise my kid the best I can and help her navigate this crazy world that we live in. And the unfortunate outcome for the other sort of children is heart-wrenching. But do not give up hope in that regard. Even if you are separate from your child, deep down in their soul, they should know that you love them, and if things were different, you would be there. Anyway, let's press on. What do we see? So RP Poe, Billy, you are literally explaining my entire life and experiences. You are right about everything, though. Well, thank you for that. And there's a lot of, as you could probably tell, I spend a lot of time ruminating, thinking, and that helps me to have this sort of insight. GM, yeah, it's not an algorithm thing. It's a CB hitting that report button thing. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously sometimes Susan is, I'm taking you prone to like the censorship and people taking pride in, I mean, I'm talking about people who have the word literally like banned across their avatar. They literally got it like a badge of honor. I mean, yeah, Susan, the robots, the algorithm, who knows? I mean, it does happen. The feds might be watching, you know. I see Peng saying like Billy is a fed, you know, the CIA or whoever might be watching. They're making notes and things like that. And likewise, it could be crazy bees. It could be all sorts of things. But it's my point is the taking that as an opportunity to be like, you see, like what I have, my truth is too dangerous for them, that they're having to well, actually, I suppose that's a little bit what the crazy bees are doing, but I mean it more from the rhetoric sort of side of things, the more emotional, ideological, like flat earthers, for example, type of thing. When like a lunatic is trying to claim credit because for good reason they were taken out, or like when people talk about the vaccine, and you know, they got some wonderful imaginations, and their video gets taken down for medical misinformation. It's like, well, because so they've just confirmed that what I was saying is true then, because they've had to take it down. It's like, nah, man, what you're saying is absolutely crazy. Now, maybe there might be a bit of foul play afoot, but what tends to happen is people get carried away with their conspiracy theories and they step over a line, and that's why you get struck. And that's why I can say things like vaccine, and this video will still be up, because I haven't actually made any claims to say anything. You know, and sometimes people, they're aware enough to know that, look, if I just be vague and skirt around it, I'll probably not raise a flag. But that wouldn't get them their validation. So there's an element of intentional crossing the line, or intentionally getting themselves struck down, because they need that additional, their word alone isn't convincing enough. So they need that punishment in a way to give them the retribution. Yeah, so we need more. GM says, we need more sane people. Like, we need more sane people in the mental health field, less feminists. Yeah, big time. And I mean, that would be nice just for starters, but in terms of having the mental health field being equipped well enough, because times have changed and there's a lot to be learned, and it's time consuming, obviously. Like, I mean, we've been here for an hour, and I appreciate you all for listening, and the you know, you're paying attention. Hopefully, maybe you're dreaming, maybe you're sleeping. I know one of you out there likes the sound of my voice when they want to go to sleep. which is their prerogative, so it's fine by me. It's that sexy English accent, it must be. But yeah, it's energy intensive, resource intensive, time intensive, and we are, and we've got feminists at the helm, so it shouldn't be a surprise that on a societal level, mental health is declining rapidly. Here's a fun fact for you all. Apparently, from what I heard, 85% of the world population you can diagnose them with some kind of mental disorder, one or other. So maybe some of them are borderline, some of them are narcissists, some of them are histrionics, whatever. So 85% has something that they could be diagnosed with if you were adamant to give everyone a diagnosis. What does that tell you? It means there's something wrong with the remaining 15%. That should be a scary thought for you. That's how normalized it's become. Tim says, Billy the Goat, I can prove to you that the algo censors. Yeah, I'm sure it does. I mean, it's there for a reason. It's just sometimes, maybe we're jumping to conclusions. I don't know what a percentage would be, like a false positive or whatever. Just type in some no words in the comments and your comment will get shadow banned. I mean, I do remember I left a comment on someone's video and it wasn't allowed to post. But I realized like what I said was that's probably triggered it. Meaning you can only see, but others others cannot. Yeah. I don't want us to be like. I understand. Like, it's legit. Like you've got sensors, you've got robots, you've got people behind screens. They're watching. You've got government bodies watching. You've got tabs being kept on people. There are like networks of like henchmen who are also in conjunction keeping people or reporting people. Yeah, I mean, I'm not denying that, but there is also an aspect where emotionally manipulative people they utilize those mechanisms to be able to then give what they're to level up their manipulation skills, because then they can say something. Let's say they want to say something crazy like I don't know, like you should all subscribe and follow my channel if you want to survive the apocalypse. How do I know you're not going to survive the apocalypse? Because watch them censor this video and then they'll say something that'll obviously get them censored. And then the listener will be like, oh my God, he got censored. That means I'm definitely not going to survive the apocalypse. I need to subscribe to him now. I don't know, like, maybe that's a bad example, but I hope you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. I mean, yes, I'm not denying that there aren't people censoring, and there are algorithms and they're getting better, and the AI is getting better and things like that. But do not think there aren't people who are using the being censored or being struck down or being banned as a badge of honor, but also as a way of verifying whatever it is that they were saying before they got struck, so that their lies can become seemingly true. It's like, I don't know, let's say if you mix chemical A with chemical B, then it's going to make you a superhuman. How do I know? Because watch them ban that, because they don't want you to become a superhuman. And then, like, boom, I get banned or struck or censored. And then you lot will be like, oh, Billy knows the secret formula to become a superhuman. Does that make sense? or a flat Earth argument. You know, I can say that the Earth is flat. Why? And I can prove it. How? Because I'm going to get censored for it. And then I get censored because I said something obscene. And then I go, see, I told you the Earth is flat. I'm actually a shrink. The docs have said the same to me. I knew there is a reason I like you, Billy. Yeah, well, that's kind of funny. It's like when the doctor says, hey, you should be a therapist, it's like, am I sitting in the right chair? What am I doing here? Doctor, you're scaring me. I'm supposed to be looking for questions, really. You're too base for YouTube, brother, and I say that with the utmost respect. Base. How low can you go? Well, thank you very much. I think it pays off in the end when you see when just cry and keep our emotions. You know, gravity is a good thing. All right, stay on Earth. They are. What? So I've got something. Someone's banner is like when I hold on, GM. Come back to you a second. Oh, that's like the banner I had on before. Yeah, all right, let me get rid of that banner. Like, what is that lurking in the background? Oh, it jumped. All right, they are parasites. I saw you say, GM. We should stop creating more of these people. Yeah. Hold on, let me just drink my tea. It's kind of gone lukewarm. It's probably gone cold. Well, yeah. I mean, it's inhumane. Like when you think that people are being born, and it becomes a bit judgmental because like, who are you to tell me how other people should parent and things like that? But it's like, yeah, but look what's being produced. This is cruelty. Like, and it was bad before. To have the realization that many of us weren't born because of love, but because of servitude, because maybe we might be caretakers for our parents when they get older. You know, so we're denied a life. Like here's a sort of a thought for guys. Now you can have your opinion, but this is my opinion. And when it comes to the idea of legacy, like, oh, we should have children because you can pass on your legacy. Well, I don't have that philosophy when it comes to my kid. I don't want my kid to necessarily live the life that I dictate to her as part of my legacy so that I can live on through her. She's free to do what she wants, really. She has her own legacy, as it were. Now, there's a good chance because, you know, she's got only me as a parent and she's going to pick up my mannerisms, that she's probably going to follow some sort of similar path. Granted, she might have the autism that gets in a bit of the way, but her reading is coming along very nicely, and her writing skills, etc. So I don't know if she's going to be some sort of like philosopher or deep thinker, but still, whatever. But I'm not going to be particularly like, honey, I want you to like, here's my 3D printer. I want you to carry this on because it's somehow part of our family legacy. You know, you take it in whatever direction you want to take it in. You carry my DNA, supposedly, unless biologically you're not my kid, but that's a different story. What, Billy? What are you saying? Oh, Rib Grunt. Thanks for the stream, Billy. It's commendable that you are doing it. Well, thank you, Rib Grunt, and I appreciate your videos too. Great to see you all, and cheers, everyone. Until next time, peace out. Okay, so Rib Grunt. Okay, adios. Take care. Yeah, I know. I've got two. Hey, look, I came to this stream with basically 3 questions written down. I've got to milk this for its, you know, what it's worth. We've already gone through 1. Is there any actual, like, come on, any actual questions? I know the comments are great, but oh, I see a question. There go my ego. What are their weakest? What are their weakest strengths? Oh, like an oxymoron. The weakest strength. Yes, the stronger you are, as you are. as strong as your weakest link. What are the weakest strengths that narcissists cannot handle? They can't handle anything. I mean, how to approach this sort of question? Like, the greatest sort of injuries are things like the sense of loss of control, shame, being denied, the collapse. So like no fuel, no supply. So ignoring a narcissist, giving no attention, not even discussing narcissists in this stream. It's like, narcissist? What's that? I've never heard of it before. That would be such an insult to them. It's like, how dare you not even know what a narcissist is? I'm a narcissist. How dare you not know what a narcissist is? You stupid goat. You. It's like, oh, I didn't think it was anything important. And it'd be like, what? You ridicule me. So to not be relevant or acknowledged or significant in any way, these to be rendered down to the dirt on the bottom of my shoe has more importance than you, is like dynamite against them. That kind of stuff. It's like you are, it's like just to be called like you are a nobody, you are insignificant. I don't even know how you possibly exist in this world if it was not for someone's imagination. They would be like, how dare you? Don't you know who I am? I am the master. I am the captain of the planet. I am the ruler. I am the queen. I am a princess. It's like, oh. If you say so, okay. They'll be like, how dare you? Hey, check it out, everybody. We got a queen over here. Oh, your highness. Stop making me a mockery. And that's another one. Narcissists don't like being laughed at. Ah, yes, the sexy. The Sean. Hey, Miss Moneypenny. Sean Connery accent. The Rock. Winners go home and complain about losers complain about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. How was that? Contact info. Crikey. I'm sure it goes to the About tab. And there's a button there like, I don't understand what the point of this button is, but like press for business inquiries, and then boom, there you go. That's my email address. Billy the Cosmic Goat. I know, I'm sorry for the cosmic part. So Billy, all one word, all lowercase. Billy the Cosmic Goat at gmail.com. If I remember, I'll add it in the description later on. But thanks for asking. And Peng. Oh, it's not Peng. Who was asking? One of you guys, was it Peng or RP Pope? They wanted to have a discussion, like that. You want to come onto the panel? You want to talk about things? Yes, whoever it is. Let me check my notes. I've got it written down. RP Pope. It was you that said it in the last stream. Like you had some things you wanted to talk on a panel. Yeah, sure. Maybe not on today, because in a minute I'm going to actually like address the last two questions I've got written down, and try not to keep this too long. So okay, so wait. RP Pope says, I need to sit down and do a stream. Personally defeated the entire narc. Cool. The community? No, community. Communities that there's like another. It's like a beast of its own. They even tried to kill me. Oh, crikey, man! Sorry to hear that. Because they fear the day I will shine the light on them. Yeah. Well, the element of killing people. I mean, literally. I mean, you might be dealing with more psychopathic people, because narcissists have that element of cowardness. They might kill you, but it'll be like from the shadows, whereas a psychopath would be like, no, I'm gonna kill you, you know, broad daylight, like, here I come. So the psychopath is a lot more violent. So not that we should be examining your how did this man die? You know, it looked like a very violent death. He was killed by a psychopath then. But yeah. Like, obviously, so you're a threat, you're a danger, you're exposing them. They're being shown. I mean, obviously, this is a huge exposure is a huge problem, because not only are you reflecting back the horror show that they are, but if anyone were to listen to you, and this is part why they do a smear campaign, if anyone was to listen to you and believe what you had to say, then you could cut off their supply, and supply is like food. So they could starve if they don't somehow take care of you, be it destroy your reputation, be it a smear campaign, be it kill you, be it lock you up, gaffer tape your mouth, whatever it takes. And if you've got a community, I've got there's a couple of videos on my channel that discusses the dangers of communities. I think I touched on it twice, maybe 3 times. But you know, the moderators end up getting involved because they don't want to be seen with egg on their face that they got members within their community that are just evil or whatever, narcissistic. So they do what's easy and side with the narcissist to as a token of good gesture, sort of thing. And they booted me out of a community. So I suspect we might have a similar kind of story there, RP Pope. Narc can't handle when you actually say kind and pretend to them and pretend to let them get over on you. Yeah, I mean, the narcissist wants to get under your skin if possible. So if you're staying kind and you're continuing, you're not really altering, you're not compromising your integrity. That's like an insult. It's like again, like, how dare you not allow my claws to penetrate your skin and allow me to rip you apart? Like, you're supposed to be my victim. What were you doing with a spine? Who gave you that spine? God damn it. The audacity. Someone gave you a backbone. And that's taking your power. I mean, that there is a little bit what my third question I have written down. Shall I get into the questions? No offense, if there are, the comments are lovely. I'll just. So howdy Paul, Left Wick. I think you're new here. One Fast Dak. How you doing, Dak? D-Man, Ping. Just saying, if there's just jumping towards the bottom. What I'll do probably is at a later date, in the next couple of days, I'll recheck this video and I'll go through the comments to see if there's any particulars that we need to cover for our previously for our add-ons and whatever. So let's go on to the second question, because they're going to be quite big. Seems like narcissism is on the rise, or it's a popular subject. And I think that was provided to us by Peng, and GM added a little bit to it, like, yeah, Peng, this shit is contagious. And yes, there is an element of contagion. So to try and get through this quickly, because this is quite a big subject. I mean, like, why is it we see a rise in narcissism? Why is it proliferating throughout society on multiple levels and all this sort of stuff? So I just got a few bullet points, but I'm sure this list is very long, and maybe I might come back to this as a proper sort of like content style video. Societal narcissism. Now, so what is, we have to kind of, every now and again, we have to remind ourselves, go back to basics, go back to the beginning. Like, what is the whole point? Why do we have narcissism? What's the function it serves? And we can look at it from it's a survival defense mechanism where all other coping strategies have failed. So it's like a last resort. And then we remind ourselves again, like, why is it someone chooses to become a narcissist? Out of desperation, because they're not being accepted for who they authentically are. The true self is being rejected. It's not cutting mustard with reality. So the child needs to survive. So they recruit the ego in that protection. Look, save me, my ego, because I'm failing life. And the ego says, I will save you, but I'm also going to be your God and ruler, and you're going to bow down before me. And they go, yes, I'll make this deal because I've got no other choice. And they say, right, so my tyrant of ego is going to take over the steering wheel of my life, and I am helpless to intervene because I'm obviously too inadequate, because here I am asking the ego to take over. And the ego says, yes, you should be ashamed of yourself, and thank you for worshiping me. Now do as I say. So with that kind of modality, this becomes very appealing as the ultimate solution to other people. So if you've got someone in life who is struggling to get by, they haven't got a job, they've been kicked out, their life is in tatters, their health is going down or whatever, they're in debt, they've got, just paint a picture, an unpleasant picture, then the temptation to become a narcissist will be there, because it's the ultimate solution. It guarantees survival of reality. How? By escaping reality and exiting into fantasy. You can't kill me if I'm not here. And that is how they escape reality. The burdens and response, the fear of mortality. Because in reality, you can die. But in fantasy, you live forever. You're invulnerable. In reality, you're vulnerable. And your life in reality is insecure. You've got no comfort. You've got insecurities because you've got all this anxiety and stress because you don't know where danger is, and life is just getting on top of you, burying you down. So you escape the temptation to escape all of this and become a narcissist, to enter fantasy, psychosis, where no one can touch me now, where I am the god of the world and I control everything. Because I can't control anything in reality, but here I am invincible, and all the rest of it. So the temptation, that's one reason why people are becoming more and more narcissistic. And this is also, okay, so one of another reasons why is this isn't a new phenomena. Like, we've always, since humans have been around, the dawn of time or whatever, we've had narcissism. If it wasn't for narcissism, you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. You'd be dead. So there is healthy narcissism, and it's required. It's actually your ego, your narcissism derived from your ego, is older than your sense of self. That one sort of, that's a fun fact. So, because normally we think of our biological age, but even when we think of our mental age, there's a split there. There's a discrepancy where your ego has been in existence when you were born, but you had no sense of self when you were born. You had your ego taking care of you. Your earliest childhood memories that you have is probably when you are beginning to have a sense of self forming, and as such, it's however many years younger than your ego is. So you were a narcissist before you had a sense of self. We were all born narcissists. Babies are narcissists. Tell that to a mother to be. You're going to give birth to a narcissist. Now, narcissists they're lazy, they're desperate, as we covered a moment ago. They have a very competitive with one another. They're impulsive. So, with all these character traits, and this has been crossing generations, and each generation is adding on more disorder from the last. So we see an escalation. You take a narcissistic individual, You take them out, you look at their lifespan. When they're young, they're allowed to be narcissists. Once they become an adult and they're expected to conform to society and the rules and the laws and things like that, they have energy. Two, they have, to some degree, a level of tolerance. They don't really want to get themselves into trouble, so they will be compliant, much more so. But as they get older, like they hit the wall, they get late middle age, they're getting elderly, the energy, the tolerance, the beating about the bush, it starts to fall apart. They can't be bothered anymore. So their true narcissism starts to become more overtly on display, and they become horrible people as they age, and they resemble more childlike mannerisms. So all during their midlife is that facade in a way, and the mask is heavy. It requires maintenance. It requires being attentive towards to do the maintenance. And as after a while, despite how many patchwork Frankenstein jobs they do on it, I mean, the thing is just like, sod this, just I don't need it anymore. I'm just going to be a horrible person, and I'm not even going to pretend. And so the narcissism is on full display, and that's a little bit like sort of as an individual way of looking at it. You look at it as a cross-generational kind of thing, like the lifespan of the cross generations, the legacy, as it were. We were talking about legacy earlier. So the narcissistic legacy, yeah, it's evolving, but they're not bothering to beat about the bush or pretend. It's like everyone's pretty much a narcissist, so why should I bother pretend to be all nice? That just basically delays me getting my fuel and supply. I want food right now. Gimme. I'm entitled to it, and I can't be bothered waiting. How dare you make me wait? And if I don't be direct with it, then all the other narcissists are going to jump the queue before me and get supper. So we see this bluntness now in society. No shame about it. No beating about the bush. And they're encouraged to behave like this because, as we all we all attest to, is that society rewards them for it. Our understanding has improved from long ago. So like how narcissism has always been around the history of mankind, at the time, we didn't really know what narcissism was. So how do we identify it or pinpoint it? We just say, like, that's just crazy person down the road, oh yeah, I know the crazy people. It's like, well, now we don't necessarily say crazy people. We say, no, that's a narcissist. That's a comorbid something or other. We can be a bit more analytical with what we're dealing with. Also as a reflection because of the severity of the situation. It's like, no, we need to know. We need to get a grip on what's happening here. We can't just go around saying, oh, that's just crazy person. Oh, that's just an arsehole. It's like, yeah, but is that how bad of, like, how should I be worried then? It's like, oh yes, you should be worried because they're going to do all this other madness, manipulation. And it's like, oh, open up a Pandora's box. It's like, yeah. So, and this is why we're here today, like, to answer questions and to expand our knowledge because of the intricacies, the minefield and whatnot that we could encounter. So our understanding and our ability to communicate these ideas has improved in modern times. And this is still cutting edge stuff. I mean, GM will have a better recollection of the sort of the time scale of, like, say, when Sam Vaknin, is like the 90s, he published his book. 2000. I mean, look up the Google definition of narcissism. That hasn't been updated yet, I don't think. You know, the DSM-5 has only recently been updated. So psychology, like we were talking about earlier, is behind. There's a lot of catching up to do, let alone actually taking it forward. So in that sense, it's actually a little bit of an honor here to be on that. Well, I don't know if I want to include myself as one of the more prestigious academics in the subject field matter, but to contribute and to provide my perspective, at least, or whatever, to be at the front line, pretty cool. But anyway, so, and with that understanding, we also understand that there are many forms of narcissism now. Like traditionally, it was basically grandiose narcissists. Now we know of the covert, and because as the word implies, covert, without being detected, under the radar, it's like, well, how long has this been around for? Then we'll probably be surprised. And how expansive is it? Because how do you detect it? You know, well, there are ways now that we can detect it, but back then, you know, the whole point of it's being stealthy, not to go undetected. You'd be pretty bad at it if you were spotted. It's being normalized, and the result of poor parenting. Now, if we look at it in a flip way, why didn't we have this outbreak of narcissism in the past? Well, there's a few factors there as well. Like, one, we didn't have the technology to be able to spread it out. So social media, for example, or the internet, that's contributed towards it. Fashion, culture, pop culture and fashion and trends, that helps to spread it. The parenting, though, in the past was different to what we have now. Now, I'm not sure what generation we can blame, but if we look maybe post sort of World War II era, like Generation X, boomers or something like that, the hippie years, because there was no apparent, because the narcissism wasn't causing such a problem for society, then there was no real reason to address it. Society could tolerate to some degree a level of narcissism, like full-blown NPD kind of thing. But because there wasn't really a need to address it, then parents in likelihood didn't really feel the need to educate their children about the matter. So it was like a danger. It was like a problem waiting to happen, but there was no way of knowing what that problem would be necessarily until it actually presents itself or becomes or emerges. But by then, obviously, it's too late because here it is, or here we are. So parents probably didn't realize that a lot of their, let's say, expressive ambitions for their children, like sentiments such as like, I want my child to have the things that I never had, so they end up spoiling the children, and the children learn to be entitled. They didn't realize, many of them, that they were instead of teaching to protect narcissism, they were doing the opposite. They were actually teaching their kids to become narcissistic. And then obviously you had two parents, so it'd be easier to keep in line a child better. Families were much more harmonious. Now look at all you got. So there's nothing really to keep the narcissism in check. And consequently, self-esteem has plummeted. And self-esteem is a big one to prevent narcissism, because that is the self-hatred we were talking about earlier. How does the narcissism form? How does it originate? Because there was a disdain towards the sense of self. It's like you there, sense of self. You're useless at looking after us in life. I hate you. I need our ego is better than you. I'm gonna go side with the ego and get rid of you. I don't want to be associated with you. You horrible sense of self. You know, that's not self-esteem. That's self-hate. And it was the self-esteem that would really, in a healthy upbringing, the self-esteem would take the control and keep the ego in check. And they'd work together. But the sense of self, the self-esteem, would be the true captain of the ship, or is what matters. That's where the identity resides, really, not in the ego. You are not your ego. So if there's no self-esteem, it's gone. People don't like who they are. There's a lot of self-hate. And they're being encouraged to be something they're not. Then you can see how easily the amount of narcissism we have today is in proportion to what we're discussing. It makes sense. I mean, if we didn't have narcissism today, that would be a bit weird, considering what we've mentioned. And I think basically I've given a few pointers there on that subject. You know, we could maybe add some more to it or whatever. What? I think we've got a heretic here. What's this, Johnny Midnight? What? Even though I worked in the psych field, you know much more about NPD than I do. I'm just shooting from the hip, mate. You know, like, there's no... At certain points in time, yes, you could be like, oh, look, you can... So-and-so who's written a book is mentioning something similar to what you're doing. But at other times, like, I don't know if anyone's written about or has touched upon some of the ways I've been describing it. Don't ask me where it comes from, because sometimes I don't even know myself. I suspect there's like a little demon on my shoulders whispering in my ears. Tell them to fart in G major. Yeah, get that on the stream. We can get a quartet going. Everyone, tune your buttocks. Concert C, everyone. Be like the woodwind ensemble. Uh-oh. Damn it. Why does it show? Apparently so. And I'm not proud of it. That's why I try to keep it on the low, but good mother keeps spilling the beans. No, I don't like it. Why don't I like it? Because it means I'm neither in this world nor fairyland. I'm somewhere in between. I don't belong in either of them, and that sucks, man. I don't know why you get INFJs and you think, oh, this is like fantastic. Like, I'm supposed to be some sort of special, like, it's like, no, man, you're effed up in the head. You're not listening to what it's saying. It's saying that you're so screwed up. You're not in reality, and you don't even belong in fantasy. You're like, where are you? You're in limbo. You're in the void where no one else belongs. And this is why you like you want to have company, but you will never be able to actually fully connect with people because you've got this fucking problem with you. I'm like, oh, wonderful. It explains a lot. Thank you. Oh. Did I just describe you as well then, Johnny Midnight? Neither here nor there. Like, you know, good. Yeah. Right. I'm glad we're having a good time here tonight. So my final question that was brought up in the previous stream by R.P. Pope, and I think D-Man, if you're there, can you please confirm? Iridium Kush. Yes, and this is the funny thing, an INFJ as well. Apparently it's supposed to be rare, but then I heard another one, like, I don't know, like, just plucking this out of the air, like an ES FP or something like that, and they're claiming that's the rarest of the rare. It's like, oh, it's almost like the zodiac symbols. It's like, so every MBTI is supposedly rare. Right, so I'll dig out that banner. Oh, actually, right, I made a comment during that stream last time about, I said something like, I have more sympathy. I show, some people get upset with me and they claim that I show the narcissist more sympathy than I do the victim. Why is that? And I explained, because narcissists fundamentally don't have a choice. And I went into like how it's a chaotic world, they're in torture, you wouldn't want to be there, they're slaves to their own ego, and that's like eternity for them. Whereas for the victims have a choice. And the victims that were accusing me of this unfair balance of sympathy, I said, were likely very narcissistic themselves, upset with me showing compassion, because I should be hating on the narcissist. Now, during that, so after I said that, I think this is, who said this? Was it you again, RP Pope? Was I picking on you during that stream? It might have been RP Pope, but it doesn't matter. But they said they beg to differ, because when they were a boy, they had no choice but to stay with the narcissist. And correct, because when we're children, you know, it's like you're stuck with your parents, unfortunately. So he is right there. But we're gonna use that to slide our way into this idea of oh, I didn't actually make a banner. Let me make a quick banner. What to do if you're stuck with a narc. All right, what to do if you're stuck with a narc? And this could be in the form of maybe co-parenting. Your boss could be a narcissist. You've got family that are narcissists. Maybe your parents are narcissists. Maybe your children are narcissists. Maybe your sibling is a narcissist. Maybe your next door neighbor is a narcissist. Maybe your flatmate is a narcissist. Who knows? Maybe your memories are haunted with narcissists and they follow you in your thoughts and dreams in the form of PTSD. And you can't escape the narcissist. So what can we do about it? No, I've got a little list again, but I haven't organized them in a particular a good way. I just sort of randomized them. Apologies for that. I should have spent a few minutes at least to put them in some sort of coherent sense. So we begin with responding, not reacting. So you might have heard before, narcissists feed on your reaction. They feed on your energy. They feed on your feelings. Feeding, fuel, food, right? So the narcissist is the vampire, the emotional vampire. It's sucking your blood. It's sucking your soul. And your reactions, whatever they are, positive, negative, it doesn't. The fact that you're reacting in and of itself is the fuel. So when we can not become, when we can reduce our reactions, our instinctual knee-jerk reactions of like, I'm not even going to think, I'm just going to do. But instead, we can actually think, we can pause for thought, we can take our time, we can contemplate, and we can take appropriate response actions following. It doesn't have to be good or bad, but the point is we're not being pulled along by the narcissist. We're actually allowing ourselves to go at our own pace and derive a hopefully an appropriate response. That's controlling your emotions and not letting your emotions control you. A narcissist won't like that. Now, you don't have to obviously make it known to the narcissist, because they're going to sense their loss of control. They'll be like, our manipulation, our gaslighting isn't working on this person. They're staying cool-headed. Something's up here. And they'll start poking you even more, probably. Like, come on, where's your weak spot? I want to see you flip out. I want to see you lose your temper. And they're going to push your buttons, and they're going to keep going, nagging until eventually, no matter how calm and resilient you are, you will crack, and eventually just tell them to go fuck off, So, but the idea is like, respond, don't react. Keep cool. Learn so calming techniques at some point. Work on some of those breathing exercises. Sometimes maybe you might have to like count your fingers or pinch your skin, some sort of physical, like wiggle your toes to distract you from what you're dealing with, just to buy you some time. Develop boundaries. It's like, that should be like a bit of a no-brainer. Obviously, like, we know that narcissists don't like boundaries. So if you've got a boundary, that's a problem for them, because that's preventing them to gain access to your soul, to your energy. That's preventing them to get access to that food. And if you've got narcissists in your life, you're tied in some way, those boundaries will be, and depending how long this is, I mean, children obviously in the growing up, they probably weren't even given any boundaries to begin with. But even if you've got pre-existing boundaries, they will be corroded away with your exposure with a narcissist over time. So if you don't do any maintenance on your boundaries, eventually, no matter how healthy and strong and fit and all this you are, your boundaries will be compromised. The integrity will falter at some point. The more you spend time with the narcissist, and the more intimate that relationship is. So as long as you have an awareness and you can kind of factor that into your self-care, you can delay that corrosiveness from taking place. But those boundaries, without those boundaries, not only am I saying they gain access to your soul or whatever, but the brain infection, the hijacking of your mind, the enmeshment, the loss of your identity and your self-esteem, it all starts. That's the wound. So that's, you're bleeding out. That's the blood pouring out of your wound. So here's a fun one. I don't know why I put it up high on the list, but so counter strategies. You could try anyway. You can try and send them on a goose chase, right? So the narcissist entitlement will make them feel like they have access to you 24/7, whenever they feel like it. You're not allowed to have any privacy, and when they come hassling you, you have to be devoted, right? Because you're the slave, because you are the caretaker, and you're tending to the needs of the narcissist. They won't like it if you tell them not right now, for instance. However, if you can give them something, the equivalent of, like, say, giving a child a Rubik's Cube, I don't know, a puzzle to solve, some sort of, like, oh, I was out the other day and I saw a computer game I thought you might like. Hey, would you like to play it? Here you are. And you give them a computer game. You might have the narcissist gone now for, I don't know how many hours people play computer games for, but You know, so let's say you want some hours to yourself. People like, I know it might cost you a computer game, well, you see, you get the idea though. You're giving them something. Go play with a car. You know, here's a stick. Go play in the traffic. Away with you. So give them something. Send them on a little goose chase, basically, with that one. Right. Lower expectations. So forget hoping they're ever going to change. Maybe that might be one of your like, oh, I can't escape the narcissist, but if I just endure a little bit more, maybe one day, maybe a tree will fall on them and I'll be free. Like, forget it. You're pinning. Not that it might not happen, but the idea of like pinning hopes and using imagination, fantasy, like, you know, now you're dreaming almost. You know, I'm wondering of the, like, I'm looking into a crystal ball and my mind is in cloud nine, hoping to be happy and free one day. That's not how you're going to do it. So if you are going to see a change, then you need to be a bit more proactive, I'm afraid. So it might mean, especially like if you're a child, a young child in the hold on a second, I'm going to sneeze. Ah, you bastard. Right. Sorry. Excuse me. I don't normally swear when I sneeze. What was I saying? You're in a family dynamic style of narcissism. So perhaps you might need to have a more long-term plan or solution. And so you might not be able to escape immediately, but you can have the idea and not hope, oh, I hope I'm going to escape, but be like, no, actually, like, how am I going to escape? Right, I'm going to need to get some cash, maybe. Right, I better hide that cash or not let them know about it. I might need to get some contact details, some places I could move to. Maybe my friends could help me out. And you start planning this escape. And obviously with that, you would start to be more protective of sensitive information. In all likelihood, because your boundaries are weakened, the narcissist probably knows more than they should do because you've told them, because they bullied the information out of you. So you need to become a little bit more evasive when it comes to that information, that sensitive. Like if you're squirreling money away, don't tell the narcissist, oh yeah, I've been saving money up, I'm thinking of moving out. You know, they'll cut that off. Right, I've got one here, a point. This one probably won't be very easy to implement, but there's a chance, there's a bit of room. It can happen now and again, but it sort of ties in with that. Send them on a goose chase almost. Give them a Rubik's cube or tell them to play in traffic. Here's a computer game. Because the narcissists are transactional based. Their love style is transaction, right? So there's no point showing really any, like, they like compliments, I like flattery, yeah, but it's not because they want to feel love. No, they want to feel applause and adoration. It's much more like a celebrity style of infatuation. I mean, they don't, like, if you show them love, they wouldn't recognize it. They'd be like, they'd be like, are you trying to trick me? What's with all this weird, mushy, cutesy stuff? This doesn't seem right. And if anything, if intimacy was close to them, they would push back against it. They don't like intimacy. I mean, if you talk about sex and relationships, that's why the most loneliest you could ever really be is not on your own. It's being with someone who doesn't love you. And that's like being with a narcissist. You will not feel more alone than being with someone who doesn't love you, because it's like a temptation that's so close but yet so far away. So so they're transactional based anyway, what I'm saying. As such, your interactions with them are transactional based. So when you start seeing it like that, that means there's some room for bargaining, for negotiations. I don't know how that would play out exactly, but just the knowledge that you could, in theoretically, you could bargain with a narcissist. So you could wonder then, so what is it the narcissist wants from you? They want your time, they want your attention, they want your loyalty or something like this. And they want that from you, right? You're the supplier. So you could, if you wanted to, you could trickle that supply. You give them a little bit of time, you give them a little bit of attention. Now use that in conjunction with sending them on a goose chase. Now you're beginning to manage. Instead of being the caretaker, now you're being the manager of the narcissist. Instead of the narcissist controlling you, you're actually controlling the narcissist. And this is why I'm saying it ties into what RP Pope was saying, where it's like you might feel like you don't have a choice, but you actually do, because all that fuel that is being transactioned is being done so willingly. The victim is allowing it to take place. There's a strength in the victim that they don't see, because the narcissist covers the victim's eyes and prevents the victim from seeing it. The narcissist doesn't want you to reunite with your sense of self, because now you would have a friend, you would have an ally. So there's a little friend inside you and whoever these victims. There's an ally there that has been labeled the enemy because of the fear that the two of you would get together. So if you have self-esteem, that's dangerous for the narcissist. And this is how they end up. So with them separating you from the sense of self and your self-esteem, they are then able to have you willingly compliant with handing over fuel, your time, resources, energy, love, adoration, and anything and everything, because you believe that without the narcissist you'll die. So you thank your abuser for putting you on life support, and you overlook the fact they put you on life support in the first place. So it's all this, the art of creating a stage show, a mirage, an illusion, and you stepped into it. You're like Alice in Wonderland. You stepped out of reality and you're on the magical road. But to you don't see it as a magical road. You think this is how things are supposed to be. There's a couple. So here's a pretty well known one bit of advice, which is basically don't take things personally. So the narcissist will call you a useless so and so. They'll shame you. 1 minute they'll shame you, 1 minute they'll praise you. Either way, don't take it personally. You don't really exist in the mind of the narcissist. You're just a utensil, an object. You're a reflection for the narcissist. You're a prop they interact with, so that their performance on stage feels more authentic, so that they can lie to themselves that much more effectively. So that's why you're like a utensil. You're the mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? That's your job, to reflect back to the narcissist and tell them, even though it's not true, that you are the fairest of them all. No one is more fairer than you, because that's what they want to hear. And if you don't do that, that makes you a poor source of supply. And maybe you could do that intentionally. So when you have the bravery and the courage to sort of make a bit of a stand, you could maybe intentionally become a poor source of supply. That will trigger the narcissist's need to, well, they'll already have anyway. They'll already have a thirst for additional supply. There's never enough sources for them. But it will encourage them to become more reliant on someone else, because it's like you're not outputting the same as, you're a defective toaster. You're a crappy microwave. There's something wrong with you, because your supply is no. You're a tarnished mirror. So I'm going to need someone else to fill in those shoes, I suppose, or to do that for me. And that could be one way you could look to have your escape. And I mentioned in that previous stream about like if there's an adulterer or infidelity, like the new boyfriend is your ticket out of there. But yeah, so I'll say it again. The point about managing the narcissist, realize you're the one with the power, really. That's why the narcissist is trying to suck that power from you. That means the narcissist doesn't really have any power. It's an empty crown, my friends. The emperor has no clothes on. That sort of situation. Now, obviously, we're trying to maintain your boundaries and not to be reactive, instead of be responding, and not to take things personally, but to understand what's the dynamics of what's taking place. Don't forget to self-soothe and attend to your self-care. So don't let the narcissist chip your self-esteem or let them doubt yourself. They'll do that with the gaslighting, for instance, to make you try and question your reality. Because when you are destabilized, that makes you vulnerable. That makes it easier for them to manipulate and make them appear as though they are holding you down with their thumb, but really it's all part of that illusion. They've got no power, and they're cowardly. So the moment really when you bark back, they'll try and be like, "What's going on here?" and they'll try and call your bluff. But if you really had enough and you were adamant, they will back down. They're not gonna, unless they've got something they can blackmail you with or something like that. But even then, if you've already said, "No, I'm willing to take that loss. I've already accepted that as gone." Let's say they say, "Well, you're not going to have any inheritance." And it's like, I don't care. Even if you offered it to me, I would refuse it. I don't want your money. You can't use that to abuse me with, to manipulate me, to make me stay. I'm going. That's the end of it. There's nothing you can do to stop it from happening. And that is a very powerful thing to be saying to them, and earth-shattering for them to hear. That there's no way they can leverage over you. So really focus on your esteem. I mean, that's you're going to need that in whatever dynamic people are in, co-parenting or whatever. If you don't have your self-esteem, you don't have that ally there to be able to give a damn about who you are. I've got a point here where it says reality has been distorted because of the gaslighting. So you're going to, in likelihood, need to seek some clarification. Now realize, here's another trick the narcissist plays on you. Realize the narcissist mixes the good days with the bad days. They're not always abusive to you. That's a mistake people say when they talk about their narc. Like, I've been abused, I've been abused, I've been abused. They mix it up. Some days they're actually nice to you. You probably don't realize it, but if you search deeply, you'll see it there, because that makes the manipulation more effective, because it confuses you. That creates cognitive dissonance, and when you have cognitive dissonance, you tear yourself apart internally. Much better to give someone mixed messages than to just abuse them flat out, because if I was to abuse you continually flat out, you would turn around and punch me and be like, "No, I ain't taking this." But if I'm nice to you on some days, you'll be like, "Well, Billy's mean. He was mean to me the other day, but he's not always like that. You see, he's not always throwing accusations at me. He can be. He says some nice things sometimes." But then there's this other side of him where, so you can see how you're questioning yourself instead of realizing that just because a narcissist is being nice to you, that's part of the manipulation. When you're being love bombed, do not be flattered by that. be terrified. You're being abused through the love bombing, through the idolization. You're being abused. You're being manipulated as part of it. So your boundaries are weak. Start to say no. Safeguard aspects. Sometimes you don't need to react. Instead, respond. Okay, I'm repeating myself here. Right. So the point about if you're being triangulated, you've got a family network of narcissists, and they're working together to try and get you to comply. So obviously, you're going to need to start modifying your behavior around various people, and you're going to have to be careful with what you say to these people. And usually the triangulation is to cause the target, you in this case, isolation. So you're going to need to find people that you can trust, and you might need to do a bit of like vetting, like to know if you could really trust them, and you want to keep things hush. And so it's good to have a confidant, so you can let your heart pour out, and they're willing to listen to you. But it's also good to have people that you could just have conversations that have nothing to do with narcissism, just light banter, because that relaxation is part of that self-care or soothing yourself, to be able to unwind a little bit and to push all this stress to one side, maybe for an hour, just so that you can enjoy a bit of comedy, so that you can have a laugh. It's very sad when someone loses the ability to smile. You take it for granted. So don't lose your smile, gentlemen. Now, so what can we take away from all of this that we're discussing? Right. You could try to run, but we'll find danger is everywhere. It's all around us. And you might escape one narcissist, but you'll run into more. This won't be the last time you meet narcissists. But with the skills of learning how to manage management and the other aspects of the different various skills and etc., you can minimize the corrosive effects of meeting such people. And in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to say is that you can learn to integrate danger into your life and not have to be so cautious about it. Because so when you cocoon yourself, you can count. So when men talk about becoming like hermits, no offense to island hermit or monk, I mean, I don't know if a narcissist counts that as a victory, because it's like, haha, you've had to isolate yourself from life and live on your own, as probably going to be lonely. You lack human contact, and they look at that as a sort of form of punishment. So they might think that's makes them feel better at the idea of you suffering. Well, with all of this, it's a balancing act anyway. That it's like playing with fire, and when you know what you're doing and you can recognize when it's time to evacuate, you don't have you can live a bit more carefree, because you have a sense of security about you. You might not have a crystal ball and know exactly what's going to happen in the future, but you've got your sense of self as an ally watching your back. You're not alone in life through this. So regardless of what happens, you trust yourself. You can count on yourself to see you through. You don't have to be afraid anymore. You're not alone. You got you, the greatest ally you could ever possibly want or have. It's right there watching your back, and is rooting for you. It's like, yeah, come on, man, we're going to do this. So do not sacrifice your ability to be free in that regard. you can always have a door open somewhere as part of needing to evacuate. And this is the belief for the victims. They believe they end up with learned helplessness. The idea of like, I can't. There is no way. I'm stuck here. That's part of the illusion. It's a belief. It's not true. It might be difficult to find. It might, like you're roaming around in the dark, but there is a way. It all comes down to your determination, your will. Do you want to find a way? And obviously the problem with learned helplessness, this belief that there's nothing I can do, is if you're not careful, you'll start to identify yourself as a victim. And you don't need to do that. The problem with people with the victimhood mentality is that because they remain a victim. Somehow this is going on even longer than last time. These streams are getting longer and longer. All right. So that's everything I've got written down, pretty much. Next page. All right. I'm going to have a quick look at the comments. Just seeing if there's any quick questions. Okay, all right. And where are we towards the bottom of these chats? Good. Well, I'm glad I see you guys are having dialogue with one another as well. So we don't necessarily need to be talking about MGTOW or red pills or feminism. I mean, these talks that I'm going to be having here, at least on my channel, my platform, it's a place for our own mental well-being, our introspection, self-reflection. It's more psychological based and more focused on the sort of narcissistic aspects of things. But the lessons we can learn from looking at that, we can apply it to better understand ourselves. And in part, these are like the steps towards self-discovery, towards becoming an actualized man, to mature, to become self-parenting, to heal these traumas and process our emotions so that we have a better understanding of how we're feeling and who we are and why things happen to us in the way that they do. So with that, hopefully a sense of clarity. Life isn't really, yes, life is a mystery, but we don't need to compound that problem. Some things can be, with awareness and insight, can be realized and actualized and appreciated, and we can have a better gratitude towards life itself. And you see how all of this is kind of interwoven and connected and plays a part, and this is the steps and progression to take back take back what remain of life that we've got, and to make the most of it, and to be appreciative and gratitude, and to take the bad times, to value that just as much as the good times, and to see that, like, one does not necessarily need to be all doom and gloom and pessimistic. That behind the darkest of clouds, the sun is always shining. That kind of hippy dippy sort of stuff. So I'm gonna wrap it up with a little close. Oh, I think I got a song. Get it started. Right, prepare to cover your ears. It might blow your. I don't wanna. Right, here it comes. All right, it's 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna close. So this track, if anyone's wondering, is from the YouTube audio library. I thought I'd plunder those. You don't need to have any. You don't need to. What do you call it when you accredit the artist as such? You know, there's no copyrights or whatever, which is pretty cool. So this track is called "Late Night Train" by Vans in Japan. And yeah, any ideas, comments, questions, feel free to leave it in the comment box below. I'm not sure when the next stream will be out. I think we might be discussing a movie called Coraline. Any of you seen it? It's an animation by Tim Burton. Coraline. Yeah. So that's a little bit of homework for at some point, hopefully the next stream. Fantastic movie. I hope the audio levels are okay. I don't know if the music is louder than my voice or my voice is louder than the music. I'm kind of doing this in a funky way. And by the RP Pope, if you're still listening, if you want to come onto the panel, you know, you're more than welcome to. If you want it as a proper like structured show, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just shoot it from the hip if that's cool with you. And that invitation is open to everyone else as well. Well, that's about it. The song. That's the end of the song. So, namaste again, everyone. Thank you all for coming here. Peace be with you, and try to look for things to appreciate and enjoy in life, even the smallest things. Oh, silence you. Sorry about that. Autoplay. Yeah. Find the little things to be happy with, and you know, take it from there. Have a good night.